Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton Wood.
Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Recovery. I'm your host tonight, Debbie Lahman. I am the president of Unchained Praises, and Susan is not with us tonight. She is ill, but we're going to have a wonderful time speaking with our guest today, who is Justin Sullivan, and I will let you see him in just a second. But we've just been chit-chatting here, and I am really excited, Justin, to hear your testimony. And you just share with us really what's on your heart and kind of how your journey has been, okay? And tell us, first of all, tell us where you're from.
I'm from Rushville, Indiana.
Okay. So you just go ahead.
Well, let me begin this with, I struggled a lot in life by my own choices, own decisions. I had a wonderful mother, a wonderful grandmother. My family was the utmost greatest people to me in my life. I just disrespected them a lot through my addiction and my alcoholism. I started out at an early age of 14 years old. I was one of them kids that didn't care. Started with drinking. A friend and I got into a cabinet of his stepdad's, started drinking a little bit of alcohol. Figured, we liked that. It tasted good, made us feel real good. And then we ventured on. A few weeks later, as we continued to do this every day for a few weeks, we ventured on later to find his pot. So then we started smoking pot. So with the drinking and the pot smoking, we decided that we wanted to go out and drive vehicles that weren't ours.
Oh.
So we stole some vehicles. I ended up actually stealing 7 vehicles at the age of 14 years old.
My word.
Was transported to a prison facility as a teenager, and it was the Fort Wayne Juvenile Correctional Facility. I got a DOC number and that I have to live with every day for the rest of my life. And that ventured off into I just steadily got out of there, started drinking more, started being a menace to society. Never wanted to listen to my mom because every time she told me something, I'd just do the opposite of it. That typical child.
Sure.
She'd tell me not to do something, so then I did it anyways.
Because she told you not to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if she'd have told me to do it,
Then different ball game there.
Yeah. It'd have been a good thing. But, typical teenagers are not going to do what their moms say. Let's see. I actually got clean and straight for a little while. I was 19. From 19 to 20, I had a son. And after he was born, about 4 months into it, me and the baby mother, we had split up. So I'd moved back home with my mom. Well, when I did that, I got a construction job, and I watched my boss at 6:30 in the morning. He'd have a 6-pack down, and I'd be like, wow, and that's kind of wild. And eventually, after so many weeks of watching this man do that and offering me to have a beer, eventually I started drinking beer again. So that led up into drinking for, I don't know, a good 5 years, every day, daily. And in the process of this, I also was, as I was drinking, I'd be driving when I wasn't supposed to. I didn't have a driver's license. Ended up venturing off to prison quite a few times. I've done 7 years in prison, been to 5 different prisons. Pretty horrible place for a person that, got caught driving, to be honest with you.
Mm.
But it was my bad choices, bad decisions, and I deserved every bit of what I got. And in the end, I'll tell you about the end when we get there.
Oh, man, I want to know now. Keep going, please.
Okay. And then I ventured off, and I was homeless for a little while. I don't know the ages. I never really paid attention to the ages or anything like that. That wasn't my cup of tea to pay attention, of course, since
Sure.
I never paid attention to what my mom told me. I don't really know the age, but I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. I continued to be this binge drinker. And a friend of mine said, hey, I got a garage. It's heated. You can live out there. That's fine. So I started doing that. I lived out in his garage for quite a while, a little bit over a year. And in this year's time span, he brought out a drug, methamphetamines. I'd never tried it before in my entire life.
So prior to that, you were
Just
drinking
and
pot.
smoking pot, yes.
And so up until this moment, nothing else was a part of your choices.
Well, I can't lie to you. I take pills every once in a while, just to try something different. I never really became the pill addict.
I gotcha.
I just
I
try
gotcha.
something
Sure.
different,
Sure.
see if I'd like
Sure.
it.
Sure.
But once I tried this meth, though, the first hit that I took, it was completely over. My alcoholism was over. I fell in love with this drug. It was my life, my everything. And it destroyed me very slowly. It destroyed me for about 7 years, actually. In doing this, I smoked it for a good 5 years. Wasted a lot of good times. Memories I could have had with my family. Every time that my uncle would call, or my brother would call, or my mom would call, or my grandmother, I'd never answer, because I was ashamed of what I was and what I was doing. And they knew what I was doing, because when I didn't answer, they knew, it was a bad ordeal. So after doing it for about 5 years, I met another gentleman that was actually using it as an IV. He was an IV user. So I watched him do that quite a few times, and I was scared. I thought, man, that's got to hurt. That's got to hurt. But he continued to tell me, man, it's the best high in the world. It's the best high in the world. And I kept telling him, I don't want to try that. I hear people overdosing, not knowing if the drug's the real drug. And
Sure.
I'd rather smoke it because, that's something different. I never really wanted to try it. Well, at one point, I watched him do it, and I looked over and I said, "You got a new needle, man? It's about that time. I want to try that high. I want to see where you're going, because I'd watch him go from, sub-zero to sub-200 real quick, and I wanted to be right there with him. So I gave it a shot, and I instantly fell in love with the feeling. It was, to me, at the time, it was an amazing feeling. It was something that I never wanted to go away. But it was also destroying me very slowly, because I had nobody. I had them two friends there that I used with. I felt hopeless. I lived in a garage. I didn't have a job. It was really horrible. And then one day, me and my friend decided to go to our dope man's house out in the country, and we go there and we grab 3 grams. On our way back into town, I noticed a police car behind us. He'd been following for a while. And I looked over at my friend and I said, man, there's a police car behind us. He said, no, that's not a cop. I said, well, it's an unmarked vehicle, and I'm pretty sure that's who that is. Well, a couple miles down the road, he looked at me and said, yeah, you're right. That's exactly who that is. It's Officer such and such. He looks over and he goes, man, I got a family. I got a wife, 3 kids. You're living in my garage for free. I don't have a driver's license. You don't have a driver's license. You want to switch me driver's seats?
Oh.
Being the hopeless addict that I was, thinking I was doing a friend a favor, in all reality I wasn't. But we pulled over. I switched him drivers at a golf course on Fort Wayne Road. I waited patiently for the police officer to pass through. He did so, and I waited about 10 minutes, hoping that he'd done made it through Rushville and I could sneak on in and not get caught. Well, as I did that, I took off, Going down Fort Wayne Road, there was an abandoned house. I look over to the left. There was 2 police cars parked there waiting on me to pass through. And as I passed through, they pulled me over. My friend's like, man, I got this dope on me. I'm going to throw it out the window. Well, I decided to say, we're not going to do that because I don't want a drug charge. It's a lot more of a charge than driving. You know, back then in my using days, I thought to myself, just go ahead and give it to me. So he gives me this bag, and it's completely full. I grab it, and I put it in my mouth, and I swallow it, hoping that the bag wouldn't dissolve.
You swallowed the whole bag?
Yes.
I mean the bag.
Bag and all, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That was tasty.
Yeah. Well, I didn't quite taste anything.
No. Okay.
But I was hauled off to our jail there, and a few hours later, I'd been questioned before, asked if I had swallowed anything, and of course I lied and said no. And a few hours later, the bag had bust, and I was in an ultimate high that I'd never ever been and never expected to be. I was hoping that the bag wouldn't dissolve and that maybe I could, it'd just come out.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But of course it didn't, so that changed my life, dramatically changed my life. An officer came back and he seen me and asked what was wrong. I just looked at him and said, hey man, I lied to you. I swallowed a bag of meth. And it was quite a bit actually. And he's like, well, how much did you swallow? And as I go to explain this, he gets on the radio and calls for help to take me to a hospital. I get to this hospital and this doctor doesn't really know much on overdosing on meth because we don't have that very often in Rushville. We have a drug problem in Rushville, but not a lot of people overdose it, apparently. So this doctor decides that he wants to try to give me a benzodiazepam, which is a downer. And in all reality, you're not supposed to mix an upper and downer. They could kill you.
Oh my goodness.
So I looked at the doctor and asked him, where he got his degree at, and I couldn't understand that he would want to do something to me like that because in my mind, I didn't think he was helping me. I thought maybe he was going to kill me. But granted, you got to think that I took so many drugs that I thought everybody in the world was somebody different, and
Sure.
I was seeing clowns on the wall.
Sure.
It was a horrible ordeal. I tell this doctor that you can't put that in my body. I don't want it, and of course he's got to listen to me because it's my own personal life. He says I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to let you pretty much roll with whatever, and if something happens to you, then something happens to you. It's your decision. And I made that choice to not take that medicine that he wanted to give to try to save my life, which 8 hours later, that I did not overdose to where I would die, so they sent me back to the jail. I wake up that next morning, it's my best friend's funeral. My best friend had died from a liver disease from drinking himself to death. And the friend that I was in the vehicle with told me before we got arrested, I'll bond you out. Well, come to find out, he bonded me out that morning. A jailer came up and he says, hey, you okay to go home? Of course, I really wasn't okay to go home at all. There was no way that I should have been able to walk out the building. But I stated, yeah, I'm great. I'd like to go home. And he says, we're only letting you out because you got bond, and it's your best friend's funeral, and you need to pay your respects to him, which they knew, and they let me do that. But then come to tell me that to make sure that I wasn't outside at all within the next week because they knew I was going to be intoxicated for at least 6 to 7 days. So I agreed to that. I go to my best friend's funeral. I make it about 10 seconds. I walk through the door. In my mind, I thought everybody knew what I'd done, and they may have known what I'd done. But at that time, I was scared. I walk in, didn't even get to make it up to see him because, everybody turned around in my eyes. Everybody turned around and looked at me. So it scared me. I go out, venture off to the vehicle that I came in with my friends, and I'm sitting out there for a good hour. And the entire time I'm on my phone, and I'm calling these people that are in this funeral home for my best friend, and I'm telling them, hey, man, there's like 10 cops on top of the building, and they're watching me. Of course, they come out, and they're looking on top of the building, and they're going, man, you're just, you're crazy. You've done too much stuff. You swallowed too much. I said, okay, well, it's whatever. I ended up going back to the house that I lived into the garage. They actually let me come to their basement, which was actually a full basement where you could live in.
Mm-hmm.
There was a 2-foot square hole in a cement. So what I did was I crawled through there and I buried myself in a pile of dirt with cardboard over top of me like a hat, thinking that the police were after me. And I was downstairs in this basement, scared to death, thinking that the police had remote control vehicles with cameras on them watching me. For 48 hours I was doing this. And eventually I sobered up. I don't know, I think it was about 6 days into it, I actually got to fall asleep. I fell asleep, and I asked God, I said, what can I do? Show me a way. Show me how I can get away from all this. God showed me by giving me a sentence of 5 years, 3 years house arrest, 2 years probation. And I thank God every day for him doing that because it's saved my life. During my alcohol use and my drug use, I let a lot of people down, and definitely let myself down, let my son down. But these last 3 years, 1 month, and 12 days, I've been sober.
Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
have, yeah, yes, it is. It's a blessing from God, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I have done a lot of things for myself, my community. I've reached a lot of goals that I've been trying to reach for. I'm continuing to go for them goals. I became a part of a very good recovery group. It's called Recover Out Loud. We go live on Facebook. If anybody would like to look at that, I mean,
Sure.
it's a very good recovery program for people. I'm a part of Brianna's Hope, actually, too, and I'm a part of our Celebrate Recovery. I'm the life issues leader there. So I've got myself in 3 good programs. I go to meetings continually. I've been going to meetings 7 days a week, every day for almost 2 years now. It gets tiring, but I like how people inspire me. Like my friend Pete, he inspires me. I have a lot of friends there that are accountability partners that
Sure.
you can call at any time.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what time it is. And I just enjoy my life now. I got a job. It's actually a career. I plan on retiring from there. I got a retirement coming. It might take 29 more years, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that full 29 years. I've learned a lot of patience. 3 years ago, I had no patience. Like most people. Some people have patience and some don't. I've learned a lot of patience. I've learned a lot about how God can work miracles in people that are hopeless.
You're mentioning God.
Yes.
Pretty big part of this whole story.
Yes, God's my number one inspiration. He's taken me out of the darkness and brought me to light.
Amen.
I was baptized a little over 2 years ago. I attended the Emmaus Walk last year. The Emmaus Walk is amazing. It's probably the most amazing experience I've ever had. The love you feel there is just outrageous. It's something that, you just don't want to, you don't want to leave. In the beginning, when I first got to the Emmaus Walk, I thought, man, this is kind of boring. I can't tell you really about it because you're not supposed to talk about it, but,
Right.
I thought that. But I'll tell you right now, at the end, I didn't want to go home. I did not want to go back to my house. Although my house was one of my goals, I reached that goal to have my own place, and I was very proud of myself for doing so.
Do you have a relationship with your son? Was it a son, or I didn't remember? You said you had a child.
Yeah, I have a son. He's
Okay.
16 years old.
Uh-huh.
And my relationship with him, no, I do not have a relationship with him. The last time that I was in prison, I had gotten papers in the mail for him to be adopted by his stepdad, which at the time was amazing. I was definitely okay with it. I didn't sign the papers. I actually wanted to call and say, hey, look, I don't want to sign them, but they actually took my rights from me. And So I don't have any way of talking to him or anything like that. So one of these days, I hope, after he turns 18, he might want to know who I am, and,
Oh, sure.
maybe we can
sure.
reconnect in some way, and I could be a positive, person in his life. I pray about that a lot. I really do.
That's good. That is good. I really appreciated the different ministries, I'm going to use that word, that you're in, the Celebrate Recovery, you go to Brianna's Hope, and then the other ministry that you're involved with.
Recover Out Loud.
Recover Out Loud,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Now, do you have another secular, I'm going to call it a secular job, or do you work through these organizations?
I usually work through these organizations.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Celebrate Recovery. That is something that our church has as well. And then, of course, Unchained Praises. But,
Right.
yeah, that's very, very beneficial. And your story is remarkable. You're not the first person. As a matter of fact, Susan, if Susan was here, she would even be definitely in agreement with the fact that the time that she got arrested, it was the best thing ever happened to her.
Yeah.
And that's normally what we hear very frequently, because that helps you. The law enforcement people are not our enemies.
No, they are actually our friends, and they want to see us succeed in life.
I know. And so you have your own home now?
Yes, I have a 2-bedroom house. And for the first time in my entire life, I have a driver's license. God blessed me with a driver's license. I was a 3-time life suspended driver. And for what I've been doing and the people that I've been helping in my community, my judge actually agreed upon giving me a restricted driver's license. That is the best thing that's happened to me so far, because I can get back and forth to work. I can drive while I'm at work. So, yeah.
God is good.
God is amazing. He's definitely amazing, because when that judge said I okay it, I wanted to go up and give the judge a hug, but I don't think he'd appreciate
You
it.
do too.
But he knew I appreciate him doing
Right,
that for me,
yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah. We do have Stefalana joining us also, and I'm sure you've been just as fascinated as I have been in his testimony. You may not even have anything you want to ask or comment on.
Yeah, you actually asked questions that I wanted to ask, so.
Okay, that's
yeah.
good. That's good. So what are your future goals?
Well, the house I live in now, I rent. I'm looking forward to, in the next 10 years, maybe buying a house out in the country. It don't have to be a big house, but a nice little peaceful spot where I can sit on the porch, drink some coffee, and hang out with some friends. And another goal would be to get a different vehicle. I got a nice little truck right now, but, and it gets me from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
But, I see all these people that have these nice vehicles. That's a goal, to have a nice vehicle and a nice home that I own.
And did you ever think, however many years ago it was, that you would be where you are today?
No, not in a million years. Not in a million years.
So if you could say something to our audience, maybe somebody who is currently in addiction and struggling, what would you say to them?
Please get a hold of anybody that is in recovery, anybody that has anything to do with help. Get some help, because there is hope out there, and we can live a whole lot of better lives right now. It is a possibility to get out of that addiction. It's not a lifetime thing. We can survive. We can become people of society that people actually look up to, and we can inspire so many people to try to stop using these drugs, to stop the nonsense. Give your life to God. God will bless you in so many ways. You'll be very, very surprised. Do the next right thing.
Thank you. That is great. What do you feel you're doing now that you are doing that for someone else?
Well, in my eyes, I'm God's hands and feet to inspire others to become something that they never thought they would have ever been. Life's hard, and we make the choices to either make it hard or we make it we make it, it can actually be really easy. People might say that it's not, but in all reality, we can make life easy as long as we are hardworking, dedicated to doing what we're doing. We can survive. We can save lives. Just inspiring other people is my favorite thing to do. And if I don't inspire somebody, I know I'm going to meet the next person that's doing the next right thing, and they're going to inspire me to keep going.
Sure, sure. And we all need inspiration.
Oh yeah,
from time to
definitely,
time as
definitely.
well.
Yes.
You were talking about your family, and you talked very fondly of your mother and your grandmother and maybe other family members. What would you say to them right now?
I'm in a whole lot better place than I was 3.5 years ago, and I love each and every one of you, and I appreciate everything that you've ever done for me. And I'm sorry for my past.
Have you made reconciliation? Has that been a step yet?
I made reconciliation with my grandmother before she passed.
Well, that was a blessing.
Yes, it definitely was. I would actually go see her every Monday and take her some chicken because her favorite thing to eat was chicken. So I'd visit her on Mondays and I'd take her chicken. And I was slowly paying her back from the things that I did to her.
Sure.
And I hope she realized that before the ending.
I'm sure she did.
My mother, on the other hand, I couldn't reconcile with her because she had passed away during my addiction. It was, that's a whole nother story. Then.
Yeah. But you can even do that to a degree.
Yeah.
You know? And I know, speaking as a mama, we as mothers, I think we've forgiven and long before anybody ever asks for it, and I'm sure she is very happy where you are now.
Oh, yes.
Yes. One last thing.
Okay.
What would you say to yourself if you were 20 years old again?
I would probably smack myself and say, do not do drugs. Do not drink alcohol. Because the only thing you're going to do is you're going to ruin the relationships with your family. And all they want to do is support you and love you for the rest of your life. Because family is the most important thing besides God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you find that, as you said, when you were telling your story at 14 and how you started and all this, and you're like, Mom told me not to, so of course I'm going to.
Right.
How do you tell, how do you get through to a 14-year-old?
I wouldn't really know how to explain that, to be
I
honest.
suppose the only thing really would be your testimony.
Telling my story?
Your testimony, because I think what makes the difference is when you've lived it. It's one thing for a mama or somebody who hasn't to make the, don't do this and blah, 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 blah. But when you can look eye to eye to to a 14-year-old and say, son, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what the reality is.
This is what's going to happen to you.
Justin, thank you so much for sharing your story.
I appreciate you
And
having
I
me.
am just so thankful that God is using you. And I don't think He's done yet.
No.
So again, thank you so much. And we want to thank you for joining us. And we want to invite you, of course, to always tune in to Let's Talk Recovery. And we're going to just ask you to have a wonderful week and pray that you will be a testimony to somebody else. Good night.
Thank you.
Was it too bad?
No, it was good. I liked it.
You did good. When you get into telling your story, that's what